Hi, everybody, wherever you may be. My name's Larry. My call sign is Kilo 7, Hotel November. Finally, welcome back to the shack in Northwest Oregon. This is Ham Radio Live Show 63. I know it's been a while. Man, I had, personal issue, just a personal issue. I had a tooth pulled and got an infection from it. I have felt terrible for like 5 days. Not in the place to make some videos. It is so good to see you today. It is October 29, 2020. We're going to do a little bit of general questions today for the general exam in the U.S. for the FCC. And then we'll go on the air, do a couple QSOs, maybe a few, hopefully. And later, a second show that I'm very excited to do. We've had a lot of folks talking about shortwave. And I'm so excited to bring this to you guys. I'm really excited because I've put together, it's a montage of historic shortwave broadcasts over the years. Now, these span 50 years. In fact, no, wait, these actually span 60 years. So this is Cold War stuff and other things that were on shortwave over the years. It's really pretty cool. A lot of our young hams grew up in a time where there wasn't a Cold War. We've always gotten along well with Russia, used to be the Soviet Union, but it wasn't always that way. We're going to go back to the days where there was an Iron Curtain, where there was a lot of propaganda from shows and stations that no longer exist. Radio Free Europe, Voice of America, Radio Moscow, things like that. These are very cool things that will come in the second show today. It'll be a long show, but it's going to be a really good montage of the history of shortwave, what we've lost, but also what it used to be like. Welcome to the show today. Glad to have you. Thank you for coming. Some test questions on the general exam because we do want you to license up. Question number 1 comes and it says, what is usually the primary source of noise that is heard from an HF receiver with an antenna connected? Now, this is assuming you have no radio frequency interference. So, just the general noise that comes from your radio. Is it A, detector noise, B, induction motor noise, C, receiver front end noise, or D, atmospheric noise? Well, the answer is D. The atmosphere has its own signal, basically. It's like, when you turn your radio on and you hear like a kind of a hiss noise, or like some people might call it hash. It's just atmospheric noise. It's what's out there, and it typically occurs when you hook up an antenna to a radio. There's no signal. This is providing you're not tuned onto a frequency, obviously. It's between signals, so it's the noise your radio picks up. Now, the interesting part about this question that can throw some people if you're taking this test might be C, receiver front end noise. No, it's not. Although, it sounds like it might be a plausible answer. It's actually atmospheric noise. Atmospheric noise is just what happens out there. It's just a normal part of how radio works. It's just out there, okay? Next question, again, from the current FCC general exam. Number 2 is, which of the following test instruments, should be instruments, is used to display spurious signals and or intermodulation distortion products in an SSB transmitter? This is important for new hams or for people who want to license up. Okay, first of all, what's spurious signals or intermodulation distortion? Okay, when you have a signal and it's set to, say, 2.7 kilohertz wide, okay, that's your transmit signal. So from end to end, 2.7. Okay, if you're putting in a lot of processing usually, or if you're using like FT8, you're using something that's supposed to be low power and you're pumping a ton of power into it, you're going to go outside of that 2.7. You're going to blow it away a little bit. And what happens is you start hurting other signals that are nearby. That's IMD. Okay. So when you have intermodulation distortion, you're hearing essentially a few different signals at one time. You don't want to do that. And so radios are actually rated on IMD. In fact, Sherwood's list, their primary focus is how well a radio can separate IMD, which is intermodulation distortion. So this question, as it reads, it asks about how would you measure this? Okay. Would you use a wattmeter, a spectrum analyzer, a logic analyzer, or a time domain reflectometer? Whoa. Okay. It's a spectrum analyzer. That's the answer. Basically, it's because it shows what the spectrum is of your signal, your transmit signal. Let me show you what these look like, okay? If you were to buy an external device, one that, you could purchase on the open market, it might look like this, okay? Here's one that you can measure spurious emissions or IMD with. It'll help you measure your transmitter and how well it's working. So that's one you can purchase if you want to buy one. Okay. The other way you can do it, you can also do it with software. There's programs out there that will allow you to use software to help you determine your transmit bandwidth. Okay. Here's a good example of it. Now, this is from a company called Fatadog Industries, and I'm probably destroying that name, and I don't mean to. Let me get a little bit bigger. You can see the center of that peak. Okay, that's essentially the carrier. And then what trails down and out from that is the signal. That essentially tells you what your signal looks like. Now, you don't want that signal to be really fat. You want it to be peaked and coming down like this. That's how it should be. But when you're really, blowing people away like an FT8 using like 100 watts where you should be using 20, truly, FT8 is a low power transmission connection. What am I looking for? It's a way to use your ham radio to communicate with others. Okay. It's a different method of communication. So it's used and it's developed for low power. Okay. You want to use 10, maybe 20 watts, maybe 25. Some folks rev it up. They just 100 watts, 200 watts. It's too much because you've got just a small area of bandwidth on each frequency band to use for FT8. So what it does is, because it's so powerful, it moves outside the transmit band edges. It starts affecting stations to each side. That's why you don't want to do it. So spurious emissions is illegal, and it's something you shouldn't be doing. Something else that is a spurious emission, and this is important. Now, there is a big debate among some hams regarding what's called ESSB, which stands for Extended Single Sideband. Okay. ESSB is when you're running your transmit signal outside of the typical 3 kilohertz or 2.7 kilohertz wide signal. Some radios, for example, I can tell you some of the Kenwoods. I know the Yaesu 3000, 5000, I think the 1200, I think the 101 even does it, will go up to 4 kilohertz wide. Flex radios can go 10 kilohertz wide or wider, okay? And that's spurious. It's too wide. That's the problem. So if you're going to do that, which you shouldn't, but if you are, because some people really dig the full sound, because it does sound great. You get the full audio spectrum, lows to highs. So you sound like a professional radio station. Comes across real smooth, a lot of bass, comes full, real good, right? The problem is that it uses up so much bandwidth that people on one side and the other side could be affected by it. That's a spurious signal as well. All right. Next question on the general FCC license exam reads, what is VOA CAP software model? This is kind of a poorly worded question. Should say, what is the VOA CAP software model? VOA stands for Voice of America. Okay. That's the old kind of propaganda thing that we had in the United States to kind of combat Radio Moscow, Radio Berlin, Radio Romania, Radio Czechoslovakia, goes on and on. But the answer is AC voltage and impedance, B, VHF radio propagation, that's close. C, HF propagation, or D, AC current and impedance. The answer is C, HF propagation. The VOA CAP software model helps to show how high frequency, which is 3, basically it's at 1.8 to 30 megahertz propagation. See, it's there to help you know how propagation is to make contact. That's what it is. It's just a model. It's like forecast. When you go to QRZ and you see the little box, it shows you, current maximum usable frequency and what frequencies are good and what aren't, right? VOA CAP, same thing. Shows you a software model of what currently the HF bands look like. So there you go. Okay. So the next one, I believe, I hope I haven't hit the wrong button. I don't think so. Next question on the general. What is the primary characteristic of chordal hop propagation? I think we've had this one before. Chordal hop is cool. Chordal hop propagation is a big helper to HF signals. It's wonderful. All right. The answers are the possible answers. A, propagation away from the great circle bearing between stations. B, successive ionospheric reflections without an intermediate reflection from ground. C, propagation across the geomagnetic equator. D, signals reflected back toward the transmitting station. Now, to a new ham, this is very confusing. It could be very confusing. Chordal hop is one of the best friends of a ham radio operator. It's great. And the reason, and this typically happens over water, just so you know. Typically over large bodies of water, you'll have chordal hop because there's nothing to mess with the ionosphere, okay? Because there's no mountains, there's no terrain, all of that's gone. You've got water. So chordal hop, when your signal goes up from your station, hits the ionosphere, instead of bouncing back down, it stays in the ionosphere and bounces around. That's why it's so cool. Chordal hop helps you to make great distance signal contacts because it doesn't go back down, lose signal strength, then bounce back up to the ionosphere a second time, and then, rinse, lather, repeat. Doesn't do that. It stays in the ionosphere where it stays charged up and powerful. That's a great thing. So when you've got chordal hop happening, you've got a great deal going on because it means successive ionospheric reflections, meaning it stays in the ionosphere without coming down. That's essentially it. So remember, when you see chordal hop, it stays in the ionosphere. It doesn't go back down. Now, it eventually does, but for a while, it stays up high. That's a great thing. You can make contacts 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles away or more because of chordal hop. It's pretty cool. Next question. Atmospheric ducts capable of propagating microwave signals often form over what geographic feature? All right. Microwave signals are very high frequency signals, okay? Now, they typically form over bodies of water. And the reason why is because there's nothing to disturb any of the ionosphere where it's going to be, any of the atmosphere where that microwave signal can be affected. Remember, microwave is essentially line of sight. So because it's so high frequency, it's not going to go up to the ionosphere and bounce down, come back, bounce down, on and on. But when you're going over a body of water, because there's very little to mess with the signal, it tends to have better propagation because the water helps the atmosphere stay fairly stable in terms of electric waves. And I should say electromagnetic, excuse me. It's been a while. Electromagnetic waves don't get messed with so much. So on your microwave signals over bodies of water. Next question. Which of the following is a requirement of a space station? Now, for new hams, this is going to be, what the heck do I care about this? I'm not NASA. No, listen, this is important. It really is. The space station must be capable of terminating transmissions by telecommand when directed by the FCC. B, the space station must cease all transmissions after 5 years. C, the space station must be capable of changing its orbit when ordered by NASA. Or D, all these choices are correct. Now, D can throw people if they're not familiar with this. The main point is if you have control of a space station, okay, that's one thing. But if you're communicating, okay, if you're communicating via a satellite or the space station, that must be able to be terminated when directed by the FCC. Now, there's a reason. If somebody is using a satellite, for example, to say use coded messages to another country, say it's not someone friendly to your country, that's illegal. So that signal must be able to be terminated immediately. That's really the reason for it. So when you get that question, if you do, and again, you have a chance to get this on your test, make sure you know it just must be able to be terminated if it needs to be when directed by the FCC. And whoever is operating the satellite or that space station, they know the rules. They know what needs to be changed or when it needs to be terminated. But the point is, it has to be able to be terminated if necessary. That is a rule. Okay. Then you can see at the bottom, there's another question. We'll just get to that real quick. For what types of out-of-pocket expenses do the Part 97 rules state that VEs and VECs may be reimbursed? It's important for new hams to understand, or for hams that want to license up. If you've a ham that wants to license up, you've already been through this. A VE is a volunteer examiner. The VEC is the volunteer examiner coordinator. So think of the coordinator as the leader or the head of the volunteer examiner group, okay? So in Part 97, it essentially states what the responsibilities are for volunteer examiners or for the volunteer examiner coordinator. In the old days, way back in the old days, when you went for your license, you would do so with an FCC employee overseeing the test. Okay? That's how it used to be. Then the ARRL, American Radio Relay League, got in and said, now, wait a minute. We can do this if you give us the power to. We'll do volunteer examiners per your rules. That became Part 97. And what can they be reimbursed for in this case? Because again, they're volunteers, but there is some money involved that they have to incur. What is that? What does that look like? Well, it can be postage. It could be rental of the facility where the test is given. It can be maybe the materials that need to be copied. Okay. So for this type of issue where it says for which types of out-of-pocket expenses do the volunteer examiners and the volunteer examiner coordinator get reimbursed for, the answer is A, preparing, processing, administering, and coordinating an examination for an amateur radio license. They've got to mail it in. They got to send it into the FCC. They also get it from the FCC. They also sometimes have to pay for rent for a place to give the test. So they need to be reimbursed for that. So typically, when you do your license examination, it's going to cost you a certain amount of, not much, a little bit of money to take your test. That's how they get reimbursed for renting the facility or for the mailing. Okay. Last question. With your transceiver displaying the carrier frequency of Morse code, which is CW for new hams, you hear a DX station. It's on CQ, calling CQ. So say Morse code CQ call at 3.5 megahertz. Is it legal to return the call using Morse code on 3.5 megahertz? That's essentially the question. Okay. So someone's calling CQ on 3.5 megahertz. You hear it. You know Morse code. You'd like to respond back. Can you do it? Pretty simple question. But for new hams, this could throw you a little bit. Now, just the last show we did, we had during DX Worldwide, or some, sorry, CQ, I was called DX Worldwide, CQ Worldwide, we had people working below 7.125 on 40 meters. In the US, we can't respond because we're out of band. The band plan set forth in our area says that you cannot broadcast below 7.125. So we had someone, I think it's 7190 or 92, sorry, 7.092. We can't respond to that because it's outside the band plan. So in this case, your answers are A, yes, the DX station initiated the contact, which means maybe in their country, 3.5 megahertz is just fine to use Morse code because they initiated it. You can respond. B, yes, the displayed frequency is within the 80 meter CW band segment. C, no, one of the side bands of the Morse code signal will be out of the band. Or D, no, U.S. stations are not permitted to use CW emissions below 3.525 megahertz. Well, this one's a different one, by the way. Hello, Ward. It's good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Hope things are well in California. Get that ZS6PKW up. You're going to love it. Great, great antenna. Yeah, I'm trying to get mine up higher, by the way. Yeah, we ordered the same, in fact, the same mast that I told you about today, Ward. I just ordered one because it's like, I can't put it 15 feet up. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, get back to the question. You cannot respond to this signal because it's out of the band. That's the answer. Now, see, D kind of throws you a little bit. Look at the question. You hear a DX station's CQ at 3.500. D says 3.525. That's a totally different frequency. Sure, you could return it if it's a 3.525 because your sideband isn't going to extend beyond the band plan. But on D, yeah, okay, it works great. But on C, it doesn't because 3.5 is the very bottom of 80 meters. So you cannot respond to it. You just have to let it go. All right. Even if it's from someplace really far away, you got to turn the VFO away. That's the way it is. So we're working on the ZS6PKW, my ZS6PKW, same one that Ward, by the way, whose W6WWD down in California has. Great antenna. My problem is I've got a PVC pipes about 15 feet up. Problem is it's going to not be well height-wise. It's not going to propagate well on the horizon. It's going to go way up. I want it to have a lower takeoff angle. So I need it up 40, 50 feet. So I had to order a mast today so I can get it up higher. Do it once the first time. Be happy all the rest of the time. Takes a little more work, but it's better off that way. All right, we've got a show coming up later today. It's going to be fun. If you love shortwave, if you love history, if you remember the old days of Radio Australia, Radio Moscow, VOA, Radio Free Europe, Radio Berlin, all that stuff. Great stuff coming up today. Hope you enjoy today. Should be a lot of fun. Feeling a little better finally. Let's go to the rig, see how we're doing. We're on 17. We had some good signals here earlier. Again, using the Heil parametric receive audio system for all of the audio here. Now, for new hams, here's FT8 right there. Okay, so FT8, here's what it sounds like if you've never heard FT8. FT8 transmits every 15 seconds. One station sends, one receives. Here it is. FT8. Okay, now it'll stop and it'll start sending again. See? FT8 works in 15-second segments. Hello. Works in 15-second segments. It should be your radio. Sorry, your computer. My mind's going too fast for me to say it. Your computer should be tied perfectly to WWV, like right on, because it helps to get yourself right on a WWV time, because the way FT8 works is perfectly on what time it is. So FT8, make sure that your computer, whether you're using a laptop or a desktop, is set perfectly to WWV. Then hook up your FT8 transmission, and away you go. 15 seconds, you're giving your CQ call. 15 seconds later, you get response. 15 seconds later, you say, thank you, 59, bye, basically, and then the other station responds. So in 60 seconds, you've made a full contact, and it's legal towards your rewards. Have a nice reward from nice thing from Eric. Bless your heart. Helpful explanation. I'm an old middle school novice considering getting my tech license and back into ham radio. I wish I could stay for the whole stream, but we'll catch for playback. Eric, you're the reason we came. Thank you, man. I needed to hear that today. Thank you. The reason I do this is because I waited too long to get my license, because I thought Morse code was still part of this. And quite honestly, I just, I knew I couldn't do it because I had tried for years, and I just gave up. Well, then I found out Morse code wasn't part of the deal anymore and got my license. I don't want others to make the same mistake. Let's look at the rig. Let's see if we can make some contacts today. Start with 17. See. Boy, I got a carrier there and there. Woo! A little bit of a carrier going on that one. A little bit of fade. Got another signal right here. Boy, this weird tune. Trying to cut some of that carrier out. Hey, nice to see. Look at this. We got our buddy Delta Oscar 5 Oscar November Victor. Welcome to the show. My goodness, what a joy. Thanks for coming. It's good to see you today. Thanks for being here. Just checking 17. We'll see 14, maybe go 14.2, 14.3. We'll see if we can find somebody on 20 meters too. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I love 17 because it's narrow and easy. Just easy. Can't have somebody here. Tell you what, they're in the middle of a QSO. We'll try CQ. We're just going to try and make some quicks and see if we can do it very well. Excuse me. Some quicks. Voice is still cracking. Boy, that infection knocked me down. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. So glad you're here. Is this frequency available? This Kilo 7 Hotel November. Got some low power. Think we should probably get to 200 watts. Let's just get this thing rolling. Is this frequency available? This is Kilo 7 Hotel November. Power coming out doesn't impress me here. Something I watch during these shows is right here. It's just a little low. Hey, Larry's here too. Check it out. Alpha Echo Zero Japan Zulu. Larry, my goodness. It's good to see you, man. I just haven't been on because I haven't felt good. I was telling Ward earlier, gosh, I've been feeling like crud, but I missed this. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. We got a packed house. Let's see if we can make some calls, guys. Here we go. Is this frequency available? This is Kilo 7 Hotel November. Awful low on the power. I think we're going to tune and use the auto tuner, see if we can get a little bit more out of the antenna. Here's where I missed the ZS6BKW because it makes such a difference. Yeah, we're good. My goodness, we're good. About as good as we're going to get. Okay. Checking frequency availability. Kilo 7 Hotel November. My goodness. Now we got Mike Whiskey 7 Whiskey Alpha Delta. Love it. Love it. Hey guys, welcome. You've just made my day. Thanks for being here. We try and show some hams some questions to help them get their license or license up. Spend a little time on the rig. By the way, later today, good show hopefully for you. History of shortwave. We're going to go all the way back to the Cold War. So glad to have you here. Now let's see if we can make a couple of calls. CQ17. This is Kilo 7 Hotel November. Kilo 7 Hotel November calling CQ. CQ, live on Ham Radio, live on YouTube. This is Kilo 7 Hotel November, Kilowatt 7 Hotel November, calling CQ and listening. CQ17, CQ, this is Kilo 7 Hotel November, Kilowatt 7 Hotel November, calling CQ. CQ17, live on Ham Radio, live on YouTube, Kilo 7 Hotel November, calling CQ to any station, anywhere, and listening. It's about 3 p.m., so 6 p.m. in the east. Let's see what we got here. We do have a signal. That's when it's got a carrier noise. Pretty rough. Pretty rough. See, it's nice to have people talking to each other. That's cool. Let's try 20. Let's go to 20. See how we do. We got a lot of signals. Let's tune it. And let's see if we can get some contacts on 20 today and hopefully be able to say hello to some folks. It's nice to do that. Love to ask people what ham radio means to them.
It's a beautiful picture. I love that. I know how you have a great time. Once again, Jim. And the Jim is turned up to above. Kick off TND, HBC, that's flag. Let's go. Safety. My daughter's activity. Both of my daughters are
It's a nice comment. Call is Delta Oscar 5 Oscar November Victor. Still running his CEOT Novice E-Class. Now, for folks that may not know what this means, in his country, that's his E-Class license. He'd like to license up, but because of COVID, it's been tough. So we've had the same problem here in the U.S., and I know the UK and throughout Europe, it's been tough because you can't license people. It's hard to get licensing classes. Hang in there. We'll get you up and running. We want you on the air. So keep working at it. Don't give up.
An older gentleman, and he's probably looking for a sugar daddy. So you have a Japanese expression for a sugar daddy? Do you know what that means?
I have my amp on. It's crazy. Don't need the amp so much on 20.
I know that. No, I'll be okay.
It's helped me find my signals.
Beautiful.
We'll put it back on. Sounds like a CQ call here. This is like a CQ.
Don't understand.
Nope.
I think you're right on the accomplishment. You don't like his personality or whatever. He sure got a lot of stuff done that he said he was going to do. The wall's up. You don't believe it. You can drive down there and look at it. There's about 400 miles of it done, which really takes a lot of stress off the border on the southern part of the United States, and we'll have a more organized
A lot of activity on 20.
the country, getting in legally, just like every other country, and they'll have
Trying to just get a spot where I can say hello to these guys.
people just pouring across the border that just want to get on the dole. That's all it is. They just want to upscale their lives. It isn't like they're under political pressure. Their lives are endangered and all this nonsense that the coyotes tell them to say. So, you know the story. I mean, if you follow any of this, it's just one of the things that he's accomplished. And of course,
By the way, guten Tag, my friend. Guten Tag. You know, I get your messages, and I love reading them. So thanks for what you're doing there. And this is for Radio South 911. I love getting his messages because they're from Germany, and it's nice to hear how things are there. What a nice guy. Just a joy. I think it's been my favorite part of the channel, truly.
in my early 70s.
And I know that things in Great Britain, my goodness, you guys are in such a great place. You can talk to so many countries from there. Oh, my
Even though I
goodness.
watched Clinton and Obama and Bush, all three of them, my God, they're going to fix this immigration thing.
That's pretty
None
cool.
of them have done a darn thing. So
In Germany, being able to work parks in the air, that's
the only
cool.
two things
Yep.
that he's accomplished in the 4
Oh,
years
good
that
question.
he's been
Good
in office.
question. Right now, we're on the high gain AV 680 vertical at 33 feet. Love to have gotten about 45 to 50, but not in my neighborhood. Won't work.
It's just been a I don't know. He's just been a hanger on that really hasn't accomplished anything in his
Just waiting for a break here.
career. So it's just a no-brainer. But who am I? I'm just one vote, Mel. W6FCR, WNSS.
Kilo 7 Hotel November. Okay, so this is one of the times we can't hear the other side of the conversation. We hear one really well, the other side we're not. If we can get in, we will. If we can't, we won't. We'll move. I don't want to go too long in the video, but I do want to get some QSOs here. So let's do this. Let's move. We'll just move easier. Hey, how about that?
Radio November, W4RN calling CQ.
Perfect.
Calling CQ, W4 Radio November calling line.
Kilo 7 Hotel November.
I'm a little bit off of you, but I don't think it'll make much difference. But I will turn the beam to you. My name is Mike, M-I-K-E. You're about 5 by 5 here on the East Coast. Just a minute.
Oops. Somebody, bless Mike's heart. He's going to turn his directional around to us. Lost his frequency. Mike, I had you at 14.185. Did we hit the VFO, or where are you at?
W4 Radio November heading to the West Coast. If you could move to a 1 or 2, I would appreciate it. I'm going back to 185.
There we go. There we go. All right. W4 Radio Nancy, this is Kilo 7 Hotel November. My QTH is Independence, Oregon, about 65 miles southwest of Portland. You're live on a show that we do on YouTube to encourage people to join the ham radio hobby. It's called Ham Radio Live. We would love to ask you what it means to you to be a ham radio operator. Would you tell us?
Yeah, down, there was a nice guy in Mexico who was calling CQ, and I think your listeners may not know what that means. You can explain that to them. And I asked him to move off just a little bit so I could hear you more clearly. So here we are. Gee, I've never been on radio or television before, so this is a completely new experience for me. Of course, I'm pulling your leg. It's all I did for 45 years. But anyway, I'm back here in Virginia, about 50 miles west of the White House, and we have just had the dregs of that hurricane. I think its name is Zeta. It blew through here, and now it's trying to clear up. We got a good soaking. So back to you, and give me a little guidance here, and I'll say whatever you want me to. My name is Mike, and I'll get your name when I turn it back to you. W4 Radio November.
W4 Radio November, Kilo 7 Hotel November. Yeah, my name is Larry. Lima Alpha, Romeo Yankee, 5-9 here into Oregon. Great signal. Basically, all I'm asking is what ham radio means to you. I'm also a former broadcaster, not television, did radio for a number of years, but, this is something I've always enjoyed. Would you mind telling us, the people who are viewing right now, and I'm going to send a copy of this show, by the way, to your QRZ email. What does ham radio mean to you, Mike? What kind of experience have you had, and what have you enjoyed about your experience in ham radio? Over.
I'm having a little trouble with you, but I'll be glad to answer your questions. Well, I've been a ham over 60 years. I'm 70 years old. Well, ham radio for me has been a way to meet a bunch of wonderful people, a way to help out some young boys. And I remember, this has been 30 years or 40 years ago when I lived in Kansas City. There were a couple of rowdy young boys in the neighborhood, and I caught them out on my tower one time. They had actually climbed up my tower. And I said, boys, you're not in trouble. I want you to come in and have a Coke, and I'll tell you what this equipment is. Do you know what it is? And they said, no. And I said, well, come on in. It's a hot day. Let's go have a Coke, and I'll explain to you what it is. So their names were Kyle and Carrie, and I brought them into the house and took them into the Radio Shack, and they were wide-eyed. And long story short, I got them interested in ham radio. And so instead of being juvenile offenders, they turned into general class hams, and later got their extra class license, which is the top license. And one day I heard a knock on my door, and I saw a lady out there, and I answered the door, and she said, "Are you the ham?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, I am Kyle's mother, and I just want to thank you for straightening my son out. He was headed for trouble, and now he's married in this ham radio, and that's just fine with me." And that made me feel good. And the end of the story is that Kyle and Carrie are both still active hams. They are successful businessmen in their 30s or 40s now. That's been one of the things that I have always enjoyed about ham radio is helping other people, Larry. Because I had a lot of help when I was a teenager, and I was interested in getting into ham radio. Over.
Michael, we've had some really good responses to that question. I think that's the best I've ever heard. Really, I mean the best I've ever heard. Let me ask you a question real quick. I don't see an email for you here on QRZ. I do have my email on QRZ. If you want to just send me a quick email from my QRZ page, I'll send you a copy of this show. We have people right now watching from the United States, from Germany, and from Great Britain. And what you said is very powerful because one of them is trying to study up for their license. Over.
Okay, well, I will. The reason I don't have it posted is because we have had in the past 4 years the development of a great many people with hate in their hearts, and they don't want. If I say anything about our Lord and Savior, they get angry and send emails which I don't wish to respond to or even read. So it's just easier to take the email address and they can direct their hate to somebody else. So that's it. I am retired now. I was in broadcasting for 45 years. And always on the side, Larry, I played the organ in whatever church we went to. And that has meant a lot to me. So I've been able to serve the Lord and have fun too, Lord.
You're speaking to me very well right now, Michael. What a joy. What a joy. And you know what? I'm going to make this the only QSO of the show. The show's running a little long right now, so I better give you 73 quickly. But I do want to tell you how much I appreciate this, and I'm counting on you to reach out to me on QRZ. My email is there. Just send me a quick hello. I'll send you a copy of the show. This is one of the best QSOs we've had ever on this program. And what I love about it is we have people literally from 2 continents watching it live. So thank you, Michael. God bless you. Thank you for what you said. We are 2,335 miles away as the crow flies. That's a good signal today. Thank you. God bless you, man. 73 from Oregon. Whiskey 4, Romeo November, Kilo 7, Hotel November. It has been my pleasure. All the best from the Northwest, and God bless you, sir.
Okay, Larry, next time we talk, I'll tell you about when I used to do live television commercials before the invention of videotape. And I'll tell you some of the crazy things that happened live on TV during the 10 o'clock movie. They're crazy. See you later. K7HN, W4 Radio November. Bye-bye.
Mike, hold on a second. No, you don't get off the show by giving us a cliffhanging thing like that. No, that's a tease. We know that's a tease in broadcasting. Let us know quickly about that story.
Which story you Which story you want?
Let's hear the 10 o'clock news story. I love it. Let's go with it.
Okay, well, I used to, right out of college, I got drafted to do television commercials. This was before videotape, and I had to sit around during the 10 o'clock news, 10 o'clock movie, the 10:30 movie after the 10 o'clock news, and they say the first break in the movie will be in 14 minutes. So I'd come on live, and I had to do these live commercials. And if I memorized them, I got a lot more money for it than if I had to try to read it off cue cards. I was doing an ad for North American Van Lines, and they were calling themselves the gentlemen of the movie industry. And the commercial went something like this: if you have family heirlooms like this fine china in front of me, you don't want ruffians packing it away. And Van Lines, treat your family heirlooms with care. And just then, the flat or the scenery behind me came crashing down. It knocked me over and broke all the china on the table. Well, I was dumbfounded. I couldn't think of what to say, but it came to me, and I said, folks, this is a good example. These bozos that set up this scenery could never get a job with North American Van Lines, because that's the kind of people we will not hire. And then I thought, oh boy, I've lost the account. I came in the next morning, and I was the manager of North American there in Kansas City, and he said, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen on television. Thank you. That's the story. It was crazy.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. So how long were you in television doing all this, Mike?
Say it again?
I said, how long were you doing this in television?
Well, can't understand your question. I think you said, how long did I do this? Well, I was in the business for 45 years, and I ended up as the vice president of NBC. But I'm ashamed of that, although I get a pension check. I'm ashamed of what NBC has turned into. I'll let you go. I can't copy anymore. The conditions are changing. W4RN. Thank you.
W4RN K7HN. It's been my pleasure. Send me an email. We'll send you the show. God bless you, Mike. Thanks for everything. K7HN clear.
All right. He's doing this on this frequency, so I'm leaving. I'll send you an email, Larry. W4RN. I'm going to leave the frequency.
You know what? We've done a lot of shows. This is show 63. That's great stuff. You know what? We could do 10 QSOs, but that was so good to hear. And what a story. What a bunch of stories, right? Like, you know, look at this. 45 years of ham. This is from Germany. That's quite a while. W4RN. What a nice gent. Indeed. That comes from the United Kingdom. Folks, we want to encourage you to get into ham radio. We want you to license up as well. We want you on the air. Don't make the same mistake I made where I waited too long to get my license because I was too intimidated to do so. I'll continue putting up both the technician and the general exam questions here to help you pass the test. If I can help you with anything, please put it in the comments section. Coming up after the show, we will be doing a special on shortwave and the history of shortwave. Many young hams don't have any idea what the Cold War was like, what it was like in the United States. We're going to show you a lot of history in the next show. It'll be a long one, but boy, is it going to have some great history. So thank you so much for joining us all the way from Germany to Great Britain to California and all over the world. It's been my honor and privilege, and I do mean that from my heart. God bless you, everybody. Thanks for being here. Ham Radio Live exists to help you get your license and help you license up and get the most out of your ham radio life. Until next time, whew, this voice has had it. Goodbye, everybody. Take care, and God bless you.